So, how do we actually measure AI's impact on the economy? Not in hindsight, but right now as it's all unfolding. Well, today we're going to look at a brand new tool that's trying to do exactly that. It's called the Anthropic Economic Index. I mean, this is the question, right? Is AI coming for your job, or is it here to help? We've all seen the crazy headlines, the hype, but what's really going on? What's happening to our jobs, to the things we do every single day as these systems get smarter and smarter? Is this a story about replacement, or is it a story about partnership? For the longest time, the answer to that question has just been, well, a bunch of speculation. But now, for what feels like the first time, we actually have a tool that lets us peek behind the curtain and see the real-time data. And that's a huge shift. We're moving from just talking about theories to actually measuring what's happening. Okay, so let's dive into our first section. We're going to take a look at this new economic barometer, the Anthropic Economic Index. So what exactly is the Anthropic Economic Index, or the AEI for short? Well, think of it like this. The AI company, Anthropic, built this tool to look at tons and tons of real-time data from its own AI model, Claude. It's essentially watching how people are actually using this tech out in the wild, not just in a lab. The whole point is to track AI's impact on jobs, on everyday tasks, and on productivity, giving us something like a live feed of its economic footprint. All right, so now for the juicy part. What is this index actually telling us? Well, the first wave of data paints a really fascinating picture. It's a story of augmentation, automation, and, wow, incredibly fast adoption. Okay, so the AEI cuts right to the chase on that big partner versus replacement question. And what it's found so far is pretty interesting. Right now, about 57% of AI interactions are augmenting human workers, helping them out. The other 43% are fully automating tasks. So for the moment at least, AI is acting more like a co-pilot than the one flying the plane. And get this change is happening at an absolutely breakneck pace. I mean, think about previous tech revolutions like the steam engine or even the PC. Those took a while to really catch on. But AI? It's integrating into our work lives faster than anything we've ever seen before. The adoption curve is practically a vertical line. But here's the thing. This AI wave isn't hitting everywhere at the same time or with the same force. The data clearly shows that developed, English-speaking countries are really leading the charge. The US, for example, is seeing about 3.6 interactions per person. Canada and the UK are right up there too. Meanwhile, countries like France, Japan, and Germany, they're taking a more measured, slower approach. And this isn't just some abstract, high-level economic trend. No, this is changing the very fabric of our day-to-day work. And what's cool about the index is that it lets us zoom in and see exactly which tasks are being transformed. Okay, take this for example. Tasks related to searching electronic sources. It sounds a little dry, but look at the numbers. It went from just 0.03% of activity to almost 0.5%. Now, that might sound small, but that is a massive, massive leap. It really shows how quickly we're starting to lean on AI as our go-to research assistant. And we see a very similar, really dramatic trend with more formal stuff like internet-based and library research. It grew from basically nothing to over 0.25% of all tasks. This is a clear signal that the way we find and think about information is fundamentally changing. But it's not all just about doing old tasks faster. This shift is also carving out entirely new career paths. The data points to a growing demand for AI specialists, for data scientists, basically for people who know how to work with these systems. The big idea here is that as AI handles the boring, repetitive tasks, it frees us humans up to do the more creative, strategic, and, well, more human work. Okay, but it can't all be good news, right? Of course not. This is a complex story. The AEIs isn't perfect, and there are some real concerns out there. So now we need to flip the coin and look at the data's blind spots. And this really gets to the core tension of the whole AI conversation. You've got these two faces of AI. On one side, there's the incredible promise, massive productivity gains, human augmentation, brand new jobs. But on the other side, there's the peril, the real fear of job displacement, of widening inequality, and of course, the risks that come with biased or just plain wrong data. So if we zoom in on the index itself, the critics do have some valid points. First off, all this data comes from just one model, Anthropic's Claude. That's a big piece of the pie, but it's not the whole pie. The index also can't really tell if you're using AI for your job or just to plan a vacation. And a big one, it's not yet looking at things like image and video generation, which is obviously a huge part of the creative AI world. And beyond just the index's methodology, there are these much bigger concerns about reliability. And we're not talking about some far-off theoretical problem. This is happening now. There have been these wild stories of lawyers, for instance, citing legal cases in court that were completely fabricated by an AI. They just didn't exist. That stuff raises some really serious questions, right? Like, who's accountable when the AI just makes things up? Then there's the global picture. This is a huge concern. If AI gives a massive productivity boost to the advanced economies that are already ahead, the ones we just saw adopting it the fastest, what does that mean for the rest of the world? There's a very real danger here that AI could end up widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots on a global scale. So, okay, we've seen the promise, we've seen the peril, we have this new data, but we also have its limitations. The big question is, now what? How do we navigate this future? And what does all this mean for us? And for the people making the big decisions? Look, the AEI isn't some magic crystal ball that's going to predict the future perfectly. It's not. A better way to think about it is like a map. It's one of the very first real-time maps we have of this brand new, totally unexplored territory. And you know what they say? Even a map with some blank spots is way better than no map at all. And this map, imperfect as it is, really does suggest a kind of to-do list for us. Number 1, we've got to get serious about retraining and supporting workers whose jobs are going to be turned upside down. Number 2, we desperately need clear, ethical guidelines for how we build and deploy this technology responsibly. And number 3, we have to keep our eyes on the data. We have to use tools like the AEI to keep asking that core question. Is AI a tool that complements us, or is it a substitute for us? Because at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. Partner or replacement? Every single data point, every trend we see, it's all just another clue to help us answer that one fundamental question about our future. So the Anthropic Economic Index gives us this early map of AI's economic footprint. The data is showing us where we are right now, but what it can't do is tell us where to go. That part, that's up to us. So the real question we're left with is, where do we want it to step next?